to kind of give more guided instructions on like, hey, the camera can't be seen or the unit's offline, things like that. But in this case, we're actually just trying to demonstrate how we can escalate to an agent and how that context gets changed or sent over to the agent as well. So we can give them various documentations on how the different chatbot or the conference room technologies work, but ultimately they're saying this isn't helpful. So they want to chat with an agent. We also have the ability to integrate with a contact center solution so that if they want to be escalated to an agent, it doesn't necessarily have to be in text. We do have the option to kind of basically put an outbound call into the contact center and call the user and ask them like, what number do you want to call that, and make an outbound call for that. But in this case, we're demonstrating the outbound or the escalation into a chat conversation. So now we've been escalated to an operator, right? And the operator is having a conversation. They get the full context, so they understand exactly the conversation we've had with the bot, any kind of answers that the bot has given, because ultimately nothing would be more frustrating is having a conversation with AI, not getting the answers you want, and having the end user repeat the same questions. So in this case, we've got a lot of automation to quickly give some feedback of introducing who they are, and how they can help them. Um, the uh, the artificial intelligence chatbot has escalated to them, but still stay a part of the conversation. So this isn't just a two-way conversation between the agent and the end user. In this case, the end user is talking with the agent, and the AI is continuing to watch that conversation and recommend knowledge articles, either so that the agent has context of how to solve the problem, but in some cases, the ability to take that content and put it into the conversation very quickly to give them exactly the answer they need, and it's all grammatically correct with the right syntax because it's been pre-written. It's also the approved content in the knowledge base. So in this case, the agent said, "Hey, this isn't exactly what they need, so I'm going to ask more questions. What exactly are you trying to do? I'm trying to join a meeting, and it's not working." And then ultimately, we found a good article that explains step-by-step instructions on how to accomplish that. So the next, he's going to click on this, and when he clicks on that, it's going to put all that content inside of the chat window. He just has to hit enter, and now all of the kind of content is being presented to the end user to actually help their problem. The other interesting thing is that we have the ability to remote control the desktop. So if it is a desktop issue where it's not exactly a how-to question, and they're saying, hey, I'm having trouble with this, I'm having trouble with that, we can remote control without having to context switch at all. Meaning they stay in the same context, and essentially the Smart Advisor window goes away and it gets wider and allows them to remote control the desktop just by clicking this button at the top. The other thing to note is that this actually has what we call widget integration or API triggers that allow us to automatically create incidents in ServiceNow, passing all those attributes we collected at the beginning part of the conversation into the ServiceNow window, as well as taking the entire context of the conversation and putting it into the work notes so that everybody has a good understanding of what was being said. This is especially helpful if a ticket has to be escalated to a level 2. The level 2 agent doesn't necessarily have to rely upon the summarization of the agent notes of exactly what the conversation was. They see the exact conversation starting with the bot, escalate to level 1 agent. If it has to go to a higher tier, they get the entire context of what the customer is trying to request. We found that this actually allows us to have escalated tickets be resolved up to 25 and 30% faster, simply because a lot of times the L2 agent has to reach back out to the customer and say, hey, listen, I see your ticket. What exactly are you trying to accomplish? A lot of that can be avoided because they get the entire context of the conversation. So moving right along, the next part of the demonstration is going to be...
Yeah. Hey, just
yep.
Like, so, how much time does this take to like get everything configured and get everything loaded and...
So good question. So when we activate an intelligent chatbot, we have a 3-step process. The first step is to get just pure chat, no knowledge. Let's just activate chat, because most customers, not all customers, but a lot of customers, we have to drive user behavior to just use chat at first, and that's our desired approach. So we usually implement within a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks. We get the chat product completely stood up, get all the agents loaded, get it embedded in your ServiceNow, and we can go live with pure chat. Full stop. The second part of the process is we actually want to integrate to your knowledge repository. If you're using ServiceNow Knowledge Repository, there's actually a ServiceNow scoped app. We would We help you download and give all the API keys to our system. And what it allows us to do is create a beachhead for knowledge synchronization into the chatbot product. So it's a free app on the ServiceNow, on the Scope, on the ServiceNow marketplace. You pull it down, you install it, you configure it, and then we synchronize the content in. Generally, we do that that's a very quick process, a week, 2 weeks. But then the next little bit is a little more complicated, based on the knowledge you have, right? If it's a bunch of long form essays that have to be cleaned up, that's fine. Usually we'll have a knowledge manager to kind of go through and optimize that for chatbot consumption. In some cases, they want to create more enhanced content, like some of those conversational flows. So they'll go through and create that content. That process is normally 2 to 3 months because there's usually a lot of work to do. What's happening in the background, though, is one of the reasons we like this chat product more than some other chat products is because it actually has the ability to watch the conversation between the end user and the agent and start to learn about what's being said and how it's being answered, and actually is able to start to use those as heuristics to actually learn, what should be presented to the end user. So in just a second, I'm going to show you the back half of this presentation has the dashboard technology. So the blue tile, there's red tiles and blue tiles. In fact, let me just jump to it because it actually help with the conversation. So this is the back end of the platform, and all of these are intents. So when we think about AI, the concept is an utterance and an intent, right? The utterance is what the human said, uses NLP to convert those utterances into intents. The intents are what the person is trying to accomplish, and that intent can be resolved through many things. A knowledge article is one, integrating with ServiceNow is two, and then integrating with any third-party product on the back end is sort of the third component of that. So we match an utterance into an intent, and then we use these back-end systems of these tiles and the search optimizer to understand the effectiveness of what needs to be focused on. For one of my largest customers that are using this technology that has 220,000 end users and thousands of articles, I only have 2 people that are required to maintain this in the back end and still maintain a 40 to 45% deflection rate by the AI bot. So it allows us to use, self-learning capabilities with built-in heuristics. It allows us to use a visual training model to assist the self-learning to make understand where things aren't being matched correctly and make those corrections, whether they're erroneous inputs that the AI couldn't understand because it has nothing to do with anything, like just human said something that's off the wall and we can mute those things, or a legitimate utterance that wasn't interpreted correctly, and we can help correct that so the next time it's actually answered correctly.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
Hey, is that the AI technology behind this? You're speaking of utterances and intent. Is that your own proprietary, or is that a partner that you use for the AI?
It's a partner. So holistically, Atos, we don't see ourselves as an artificial intelligence company. So we don't claim to be. What we are is a world-class managed services company and integration company. So we have the best intellectual property and automation to use other companies' products. We've tried Google Dialogflow in the past, and Google is one of our major platforms. But what we've actually found is this product is Bolt 360 AI, which is by LogMeIn. So we have a partnership agreement with them, but we actually find this is better than both ServiceNow and Google's AI technology for various reasons. Google's technology is really focused on a low number of intents and a high volume of users, and so it requires an incredible amount of training to make it effective, and that doesn't work when you have hundreds and thousands of articles. It works great when you're talking about your product and customer service on a B2C environment, and they're really good at that. For internal support, there's too many intents usually to have to spend that much time in modeling it. We also find out that ServiceNow has gotten better at their VA technology. They purchased a company a couple of years ago, and like ServiceNow always does, they make an acquisition, they take a few years to integrate it, and eventually they become super mature. They're not there yet. That's our point of view, right? They're getting there, but they're not there yet. So this is still a better technology for a bunch of different reasons, especially when it comes to the omni-channel approach, and we're trying to use this is text through chatbot. We have a video solution that's built on top of that. We'll talk about in a couple slides later. And we also have integrations to other channels where we can integrate this into WhatsApp, WeChat, Apple Business Chat, etc. So we can actually kind of have a more consumer view.
So I was just curious if it was like an IPsoft product or not, merely a chatbot.
No, we have experience with that. and we don't anymore.
Okay, no, that's fine. I was just curious of the technology behind it. The other thing, so we're seeing chatbot, right, where it's, where we're texting, basically it's all text. Do you also have the capability around speech to text?
We do. So one of the things, I don't have a demo set up for today, but our intelligent contact center based on Amazon Connect uses Amazon Lex, same technology runs Alexa, where you can have voice-based conversations to understand what you're trying to do. In a lot of cases, you can actually develop options where it is answering questions and sending articles. And in some cases, like one use case we have is like AirWatch Enroll, where someone calls up and says, I'm looking to get email on my phone. They said, oh, well, okay, if you want to get company email on your phone, there's 2 steps you have to do. One is you have to enroll in AirWatch, which I can do for you right now. And we just do an API call to AirWatch, enroll the user. And what that does is the AirWatch basically, I think if I'm not mistaken, it sends a QR code to the user's email and they just scan it and helps the enrollment process. So we're basically looking to create those sort of end-to-end experiences on the phone. I would tell you that the chatbot like this is much more mature than the text-to-speech one on the IVR, only because it's easier to create world-class experiences this way with the graphics and text than it is on the phone. So on the phone, we try to keep it rather succinct because we don't want to make it so that there's a 3-minute diatribe on what you need to do to fix it on the phone. That frustrates users, and so we try to avoid that. We try to find ways of answering their question very quickly, or doing it on their behalf, or in a lot of cases, getting to the right agent at the right time.
Yeah.
That's just our experience.
And just the screen you have up now looks like your dashboard for all the chatbot experiences, as far as how many are engaging in and all that.
Yep. Yeah, this is our demo environment, but this is the number of engagements, the number of interactions.
Is that a live feed, the engagements and interactions right now?
This is a video recording, but this was.
No, I know that, but I mean, when you're looking at this dashboard, is that what's active right now?
Yeah. This was the last 24 hours. That was the scope that it was on.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there was something. This is how many are engaging and interacting right now at this moment, or if that's just from the past 24 hours, like you said. That's what I was just curious on that piece.
Yeah, no, this has the you can set the time slice any way you want. You can do it year to date, month to date, custom time range, or a lot of times you just like to look at the last 24 hours, the 24-hour look back.
Okay.
There's a lot more details we can go into. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time, but there's information about here where we can do suggested content, where we run into a lot of instances where like agents really have all the smarts in their head, and there is the whole, a lot of our clients don't necessarily have all the content documented. So if they have a really great response, they type to the customer, they say, hey, that's gold. Let me see if I can immortalize that. With just 2 clicks, they can submit it into a workflow in this tool where a knowledge manager reviews it and says, yeah, that actually is really great content. Let me go ahead and clean it up, get rid of the grammatical mistakes, fix the run-on sentences, maybe put a graphic or 2, and then publish that knowledge article, thus creating a full life cycle. And that knowledge article then can be presented by the AI instead of having to be escalated to an agent. So the whole workflow process, the whole knowledge synchronization process built into the tool. And honestly, I can go on days and days about this. But if you're okay with it, I want to just show you one more thing before we move on.
Yeah, it's fine. We can continue on so we can get through it. And my apologies. We'll obviously have the scheduled Q&A session and according to the timeline later, and then there'll be the proposal walkthrough and all that later through the timelines here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. No problem. So real quick, I want to just kind of show you that this same product has built-in machine translation capabilities, and this is key for us to allow English-based agents that are economically located in the world be able to converse with anybody in any language using a machine translation brokering service, which again I can go on for half an hour about, but the gist is that we actually have a process to capture carrier-specific artifacts that are like glossary terms, canned messages, and get them loaded into the brokering service, and then be able to use Microsoft, Amazon, or Google on a language pair by language pair basis. For example, we find that Google is really great at Asian languages, but we actually find Microsoft can be better at some of the European languages, with a few exceptions. And so the brokering technology we use, number one, keeps all of the carrier-specific content above the machine translation engines themselves and uses them best-of-breed engines. but allows us to kind of swap it out when we need to. And I can tell you definitively that we have better translations for our customers' interactions than the Google Neural, Microsoft Neural, Amazon Neural products have themselves, because we're able to enhance them. Cool. So I'm going to move on because we're running short on time. Let me just give you one example, and we'll go through this one very quick. This one is chatting with an AI bot with a backend fulfillment. This particular example maybe isn't super often, but essentially is I want to report my laptop was lost. And a lot of companies want to have the ability to do this via AI because it's very important that it's addressed quickly. So this is going pretty quick, but essentially they want to report a lost laptop and ask you, this is kind of the jump here, do you want to remotely wipe this? Now this has qualified me as being the person I'm authenticated in as myself, and this is the asset that's assigned to me. So it's actually done a query to the ServiceNow asset repository, come back with a list of assets. In this case, there's just one, and they're asking if I want to wipe it. I recognize that that's not necessarily every company would want to give that in the hands of their end users. We have one customer request, which actually a pretty good use case on our integration capabilities. But essentially, it says you want to remotely wipe it, and we say yes. In the modern device management platform, we make an API call to it saying this is a lost device. Next time it checks in, do a remote wipe. And also then says, hey, do you need a replacement device? And if they say yes, this also demonstrates the fact that we can do some carousel services and actually kind of embed some of those request items from ServiceNow into the chatbot, give them more of a kind of a higher touch graphical interface where they can actually pick the machine they're trying to order. Click on the order form, and ultimately that goes back into the ServiceNow order page and with its own authorization workflow, but allows users to kind of have a complete service, maybe with multiple integrations with multiple systems. Again, recognizing that this use case might not be extremely popular, that people aren't losing laptops every day, but for those companies that take the remote wipe very seriously, being able to report that as lost and order another one all in the same conversation, kind of powerful. So there's got some authorization. So I'm going to move on.
There can be other use cases built into that too. So say I wanted to upgrade, et cetera, you can call out to the same things, right? Like upgrade to Windows 10 if I want to do it now, initiate that, right?
100%, exactly. So think about it as more of the art of the possible, where we can look at context for the user. We can query data sources like an IT asset management database based on a user's identification, like their employee number, find out what assets, and then key off of other systems, like integrations with NextThink, where we can trigger. We actually have a demonstration with that later, where we can actually do remote resolve issues based on users' concern of their machine. So it's all basically API framework. This one, again, we'll do this one pretty quick, but essentially this is someone's looking to update the status of, and this is actually a native Teams integration to start with. This is more of what we're trying to accomplish, where in the support desk, we're actually embedding the ServiceNow interface inside of this, so they can, again, keep in context of Microsoft Teams, chat with the chatbot, ultimately show me my open tickets, be able to query ServiceNow for all their open tickets, give them buttons to click on, and then ultimately allow them to go through here and do different functions. Now, our demonstration environment, I got to tell you, it just has leave a comment. I've got a customer, and I can even pop over there and show you if you want to, that has a ton of options from I want to escalate this ticket, which is sends a note to the group that the ticket's assigned to's manager. We can do things like cancel the ticket. We can do things like deprioritize. Notice I didn't say prioritize, so we don't want people bumping up the status of their ticket, but we can bump it down. To closing, resolving, to that customer even allows them to reassign the ticket, which I think is not for everybody, but they wanted that capability, so it's there. But essentially, it's a full interaction with the ServiceNow lifecycle. Funny enough, we can create incidents, but our point of view is that you don't want to allow AI to create an incident, because when you do that, you prevent the level 1 person or the agent to resolve the issue. You don't want it to bypass level 1. In a lot of cases, that's not the best experience, especially since most of our level 1 agents are being upskilled to the point where they can resolve most issues themselves. The other thing I want to show you is that we're also doing a lot of things with for those who have a Google Nest thermostat. We're trying to create a very similar experience with our users, where we're getting a bunch of statistics around the consumption and how they're using their machine, and be able to present that into their device experience score and give them ways that they can fix issues that may be sitting on their environment with a click of a button. which ties back into next thing. So we're thinking this is more of a way of engaging users and how they consume IT, things like this, how they consume IT services. It's basically like it's a hyper-personalized report that the end users get on a regular basis, in which they can use to understand what's going on in the environment and kind of make those enhancements. Okay, so this is an example of a NextThink integration into an incident form. And what I mean by that is user calls up, right? So they're talking with an agent. They're in ServiceNow. They've got a slow PC. There's a built-in NextThink tab in part of this integration. And what this allows the agent to do is, as soon as they relate the CI to the ticket, they get this information about that CI of things that happened today and things that happened recently. And at the very quick visual glance, there's probably two things that are causing issues, or one thing that's causing issues. So their overall PC health in general has got red X's, and this bar is covering it, but it's the previous week and then today. And the CPU utilization is off the charts, way out of what we would consider normal. And that's what those red X's are. So this tells me there's something I can look at inside of NextThink to try to resolve this issue. So I can scroll down. Then ultimately, I'm going to click on the NextThink Finder. And upon clicking on NextThink Finder, it actually opens up and uses my SSO from the agent to single sign into the NextThink product, and actually pulls up the CI this is related to. If I can fast forward, and I get the understanding of exactly what's going on with their environment. So there's a couple different things, but one of the major things here is I see the CPU load is huge. It's off the charts. And I can do various things about understanding, well, is this slow because the machine they're on is just ancient? And I can quickly click on properties, and it gives me the full properties of the machine. But then I can click on CPU and understand the amount, the processor it has, an i7 3.4 gigahertz, which deployed to all the other assets in the environment is off the charts more powerful, and yet is still using a lot of bandwidth. So this gives me, like, is it just the machine, or is it actually an issue? And so it allows me to dive a little bit deeper, into the environment. And now I can see a timeline view where I can see that there's been high CPU utilization going back from July 28th, going back from the 29th to the 28th. These are times when the machine was active, and the times there was no data is when the machine was either powered down or offline, or a person was sleeping or not at work. And I can go back in time and find out that, hey, there's a new binary that showed up right at the same time when this high CPU utilization started. So prior to the 20th, it was fine, and all of a sudden on the 20th, around let's say midday, it starts to get really bad, and I can see there's two new binaries that were there. And so if I look a little bit closer, I can see that Internet Explorer is going crazy, using 500 of 800%. And for those who aren't, that's 5 cores out of 8 cores it's completely using. That's a bad way of presenting it, but that's what it means. And if I click on the binaries, I can see that this person happened to install the Ask.com toolbar, right, which led to the problem. And this is so within a couple clicks and maybe a minute or so, we've been able to isolate the issue, and now we can go help the user uninstall it. Now the rest of the demo actually shows a really cool kind of component where I can say I can create a package to solve for this one, to actually remove it. Or more specifically, I want to create a collection so I can create a package to uninstall this product across all devices that have the same package. Now, this would have to be, we wouldn't let the agent do this, but this allows the NextThink administrator to kind of identify this issue as being part of the environment, find out all the other assets that have that issue, and create a package with a PowerShell script that would actually uninstall this. And there's various levels where we can go in, do one-click investigations, and run these investigations on all the machines that have this asset if we want to do a little more digging before we rip it out. But we can ultimately do some mass self-healing for these issues and understand if they're having the same CPU maxed out across all these other users that are experiencing a very similar problem. So this isn't the most sexy of demos, right? Because it is back-end stuff and collections. But I think the story it tells is we have all of the analytics and the ability to do fleet management across them and identify issues, investigations into what the root cause is and ultimately fix those issues en masse. This is a core tenet of how we try to be proactive. So there's the service desk side. So everything I showed you up to the identification of the Ask.com toolbar is really what we enable our agents for. And then all the rest of the demonstration from then to here is really around from an administrator view, where we can see what's going on in the environment holistically. And then we can actually send this to SCCM, this collection, right? Or we can use the built-in ACT module. So I know I went really, really quick. Any questions before I move on?
No, that was good.
Awesome. Cool. So the next one, I have, so our refresh product is called CTMS. It is a back-end tool. So if you'll
Jason.
Yeah.
Sorry, one question. That tool you were just showing before, does that go to like all your service desk agents, just like level 2, level 3? Like, who kind of uses that and works through that in a normal model?
So, great question. The way we see things, it's our point of view, and Gartner. So Gartner basically done primary research and said that by 2020, this year, about 80% of incidents and requests should be automated out. And so if you think about that, a lot of that's pretty easy. Self-service catalog requests, back-end fulfillment, that's not new. That's been around for a while. So that's pretty easy to do that stuff. The chatbot helps us get and eliminate a lot of low-hanging fruit. So by eliminating 80% of those requests and incidents out of the environment, what you're left with is higher tier issues. And the natural evolution is that the agent you speak to when you're calling in should be skilled not at a level 1 agent, but a level 1.5 and sometimes a level 2, meaning that the person you're talking to has the right skill set and the training and tools to resolve most issues. Meaning that our agents do remote control at first call. It's not like a level 2 team that has to do remote control. We're actually giving that tools and functionality or upskilling your agents. So that's my long way of saying that we would actually embed the NextThink binder and the NextThink dashboard at our level 1 agents. That's how we see our service, is that we don't want you to have to talk to somebody, explain the issue, have a ticket, get routed. The level 2 team have to try to get a hold of you to only resolve the issue that ultimately the level 1 agent has the right skill set, access, and tools to do. So that's our whole thing, is we'd rather fix it as soon as you call than have to escalate it. So we eliminate as much as we can. We use automation as much as we can. The people you actually speak to are higher tier agents.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. So let me preface this with saying that I was putting this presentation together last night, and I got some documentation, which I can show you around how the CTMS works. But so CTMS is a tool that Atos developed. It's actually 10 years old. We've continually upgraded and brought it up to speed, because at one time, and I apologize, these are actually my upgrade emails. We use this internally. The pictures, because they were a couple years old, don't work anymore. But I'm actually hoping that the person sent me this morning. Perfect. Actually, I think I got some in my inbox. So just give me a second. Perfect. This is a little better. Okay, cool. So I actually asked the team to give me some screenshots that are a little better. So essentially, these are some of the email examples. It's a back-end process, and let me pull it up real quick. I will show you what it looks like. So essentially, the concept is this. We recognized that there was a need in the market 10 years ago, that there was no off-the-shelf products that allowed us to go through and pull in information about asset organization, integrate with procurement, and basically pull this information together. So we developed our own tool, and we've been enhancing it ever since. But the concept here is that we're able to pull information from various different places of the environment, and we're able to create a workflow engine that has a T-minus calendaring process that allows us to invite the user with a custom landing page, basically send them an email saying it's time for you to refresh your PC, go to this web page, sign in with your verification code, give them the ability to confirm some information, the ability to identify the assets that in a lot of cases, we want to make sure if they have a second asset, they still need it. which assets they use and which asset. Because if you look in the CMDB, there might be multiple assets assigned to a person. If we're doing a refresh project, we need to understand which ones are going to refresh. On a BAU cycle, it would be tied to whatever asset is up for refresh on a calendar process. Allows the user to pick the date that they want to refresh on, give them a little kind of insight into the dates, and they can also reschedule it, by the way. We also send out a calendar invite automatically as part of the process. Go in there, and if they need to reschedule, they can, like I said, they can reschedule it and pick a new day and put a reason why they're rescheduling. And ultimately, it's a driven process where there is a lot of email communication that comes out, and it looks sort of like, well, not that one. That was the one I did last night without the pictures. Here's a better one where we can use, pictures and really format it correctly. And it's all kind of driven by database options. Verification codes are put in there. And then we actually communicate, today's your PC refresh day. Someone's going to be by, or we're going to ship your asset. In my case, since I'm a remote worker, all the examples I had where, hey, this is your FedEx tracking number, it's arriving today, here's the model it's going to be sent to you. Essentially, and I apologize for the graphics on this, because it really looks better when it's, when it has it. But the concept is it's a process we've developed. In its heyday, it actually had a really cool process where it's becoming less and less important around USMT, and actually triggered the collection of the USMT package. It's staged in a share location, pulled down the whole user state into the new PC. So the new PC and the old PC and the SCCM collection were all organized by the same backend tool. Today, with our modern management, a lot of that functionality isn't required anymore because of things like OneDrive and folder redirection and doing entitlements, and the app collections are done more at the cloud level. And so we are coordinating that using this, but we have less processes unless our customers are still using like SCCM and Gold images to do on the user side of things. But this demo, this kind of walkthrough is actually our internal stuff. We don't normally have like a really good customer facing presentation that shows off all of our CTMS goodness, right? This is really a back end tool that we use to drive our Windows 10 upgrade projects or our refresh processes. So I know I've apologized a lot about the state of the deck, but it is a very functional process and it works really well. It's just not super flashy.
Yeah, so pause right there.
Yep.
So I just saw you flip by, and this is going to be my question, the reporting and the burn down. So you're able to forecast and see how many by month, by quarter, and what entities, et cetera, what sites they're going to. Okay.
Absolutely. And this actually ties into our order process so that we order assets when we need to, so it shows up in time instead of doing bulk orders. And one thing our customers hate to do, and we hate to do, is every quarter order 2,000 laptops, and those laptops potentially sitting for up to 3 months before they're allocated. We'd rather order every week, every 2 weeks. So we have a continual flow of assets coming in, right? As long as the supply chains are secure, which most days, except for now, that's really relevant. But it helps optimize the cash flow for a lot of our customers when they don't have to purchase assets that are going to depreciate for 3 months before they even see a user, right? And the warranties start to burn down as well. But yes, we have this whole integrated process where it's got built-in reporting. Yeah.
Fair enough. Thanks.
No problem. So I'm going to move on to flashier stuff. So this is a video. This one actually does require a video because it actually requires a physical. Oh yeah, there's a whole music too. Hold on, mute that. So the concept here is our tool is a sort of a pop-out catalog. So all the back-end smart integration between the locker system and the in the actual lockers themselves are hosted in the cloud. And what we do is we create these catalog items that are integrated with our lockers in your IT asset management database, and we present those inside of your service catalog, but they're technically part of an external group of it. That's why this interface looks very basic, because this would be embedded within your service catalog, this wouldn't be the service catalog on its own. But what it allows us to do is pick a catalog item, pick the model you want, and this could be 100% customized. This isn't the secret sauce. The secret sauce is, being able to offer, do you want next day delivery or do you want something like right now? And then if they pick next day delivery, we send it to a depot service to be shipped out. If they say click and collect, that's where we literally give them a location where they can pick it up, and we integrate it with Google Maps, and we can present the different locations of which we have the lockers. In this case, it's two of our downtown London offices. They can pick which location that they're going to pick it up from, and confirms that it has stock of that asset at that location. And they pick Atos location, they submit it, and then they get an email that says, please go to the locker. Email. And again, this is branded with the customer's logo and all that stuff on it. And they get a barcode. And what we've done recently is we can actually tie this to badge reader systems. But we did our first thing when this video was created was around barcodes. But the user has a barcode, which is basically a pin, and they walk up to the locker, and this is a barcode reader. They just scan the barcode, and then it pops the locker position. Now, the moment they scan that barcode, there is a back-end automation that takes the asset ID for this that's been in a inventory state, and assigns it to the user that's requested it. It doesn't happen until they actually pick it up, but that automation is on the back end of the process. We also have a very similar process with peripheral vending. I don't have a video for that though. Guys, we have 3 minutes left. I'm happy to go over. I'm not sure if you guys can, but let me just quickly give you a preview of what I have left. We have the virtual tech bar. We have remote camera share. We have the AI connected to Nextthink. We have the basically a Microsoft Intune auto enrollment video. We have a tech lounge video that shows the tech, like a Genius Bar type thing, and that's it. If you guys hang off, I can go through all these. If not, I can. Is there one in particular you want to cover in our last 2 minutes?
Jason, is there anything you want to see around that? So services or
yeah, so
tech bar maybe?
Virtual tech bar. How does that differ from like just an on-site tech bar? So we have 2 tech bars at various locations. It's walk in and get help, right?
Yeah. So we have that too, and in fact, the tech lounge is in a kind of evolution of that, where it's a whole space where it's really cool. But we have those services, but what we find is that those work great for your campus locations. A lot of our customers have hundreds sometimes of locations that have like between 50 and 250 and 500 people, and those tech walk-up experiences don't necessarily work in those locations economically and logistically. So what we've done is tried to emulate that kind of face-to-face experience and cover those locations using bidirectional video communication and privacy booths. What I mean by that, let me give you an example of one of my.
So it's just basically just a kiosk. I don't want to dump it down, but it's essentially connect into a kiosk and have a sort of a virtual, face-to-face.
Pretty much. It's one of the. This is actually not one this is one of our early models. You walk in there, you have a face-to-face experience. We try to tie these to asset lockers. In this case, it was an earlier version of our asset locker, where if a user has a problem at a remote site, and say, hey, you get a hardware issue. With modern management, we would just pop the locker, swap their asset out, help them get set up on the new machine, and then we would come by a day, a week, however much later, repair that asset, and then put it back in the inventory again. But the idea is that they just move from asset to asset based on when things fail, right? Because with OneDrive and data being sunk and all the apps being delivered from the cloud and management, it's easy to swap between devices and not, have a user unproductive for a day or more while they're waiting for a part or a technician to be dispatched.
Yeah, so I guess the question around that is how do you make that cost effective? Because that's not a cheap option per se either.
So we think about these from 2 different perspectives. On one hand, we see a bunch of shift left options where we're moving from phone to chat to AI, and AI to proactive and self-healing, right? So there's a lot of direction from that perspective. And our point of view is that, while that's great and that drives out cost, we don't want users to think that we're just trying to move them to different channels because of lower cost options. So, having a walk-up experience and having this type of experience is a shift, right? But it's a balance between cost savings and user experience. For a user, I think what you were asking was, how do you make it effective where you have assets pre-provisioned at these sites, right? Kind of the financial equation.
No, I mean, I guess maybe let me phrase the question differently. what size site would you put this on? Like, I'm not going to do this at a 10-person site, right? I gotta
Yeah.
imagine you're putting in thousands of dollars worth of equipment, right? It doesn't make sense, right? So it's the challenge in doing something like this is there's a fairly large expense putting these in, right? And so, yeah, like, I guess, how do you balance that, right, with having a local tech show up periodically and that type of stuff?
It's really around a lot of customers we see this doing. We're doing this. First of all, it's not as expensive as you might think for the virtual tech bar, and then the locker has its own costs as well. But
so that was the first good answer. Go ahead.
yeah, so it's not. I mean, literally, and the other way to think about this is these assets are durable things. When you talk about depreciation, you're depreciating these things over 6-7 years. These devices. These are more like a 4-year refresh cycle, and we offer them as a lease, right? So you can just subscribe to it on a monthly cost. The second thing is you can think about it from a couple of different perspectives. Number one is rolling a tech every time something an issue happens means that we have to, as a one-to-one relationship between dispatching a technician and resolving an issue. By enabling this, not only are we making them productive instantly by being able to swap out assets, I might only have to send a tech to that 10-person site.
I bought a shit ton of food.
And if there's like 2 machines that broke or 3 machines that broke, and I know that's a high number, it's maybe the 10-person site isn't a bad example.
Check out myself.
But I don't have to send out every time something breaks. I just have to send like on a periodic basis to repair all of the ones that are broken or have issues in the locker. Bring the parts when I know, because I already know what the issues are. Bring the parts, repair them on site. Wipe them, clean them up.
By the way, when are we firing Erica?
For reuse. And I'd say that the other half of this is
This
I
week?
bet this happens a lot through Shadow IT, where people leave the company and they give the asset to the executive administrator, executive admin of the site. They put it in a drawer and it goes dark for a long period of time. We have no idea where that is. What this allows us to do is kind of convert that process, that kind of Shadow IT, ninja process, into something more structured. We can actually manage those assets. We know where they are. And we can actually use them as part of a functional workflow versus not having any idea where those assets ended up. So there's a lot of different use cases here, but this is something that's unique to us. When I was on one of the accounts I was on, we kind of, I think you can see what customer it is. We did this, and we invented this about 1.5 years ago. And since then, we've deployed over 200.
Johnson.
And the CSAT on these things are through the roof. Where our CSAT on the phone is like 88, 89, 90% transactional CSAT. The CSAT for these things are like 95%.
So
Everybody
Mike,
has.
was there a minimum number of users or what have you where you really targeted these initially to roll out?
Our guidance is anywhere between 50 to 500. Right, that's kind of it's arbitrary. It could be a little higher, a little lower, but that's our general guidance is 50.
Well, what were you looking for initially as the optimal candidates? Was it tickets? Was it maybe a specific new building where infrastructure was going in? What kind of characteristics were you looking for?
Well, we were looking at for anyone. First of all, this was also driven by a lot of people that had interest that we had unproductive cycles. So there was some very driven around productivity. For example, some of the first sites we put this on in there was shop floor, right? We put these in shop floor where we had a bunch of technicians running around tough books that when they went down, it could potentially affect production. So to counteract that, they had a bunch of extra stock. This helped us use case with that. And then from an office location, it was really around the number of incidents per month, the amount of critical incidents where the user became unproductive. Those were the kind of key drivers.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
Cool.
Scott,
So
that's
could
my
you-
question.
Yeah, that was great.
Hey.
Thank you.
Hey, if you guys don't mind, I know we only did 60 minutes. I wouldn't mind 10 more minutes here if you have some live. You mentioned earlier in the demos that you obviously have videos and stuff, but
Sure,
you had some live stuff you could do.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to Ed.
Yeah, I'm gonna be obviously conscious of time and just want to see
Understood.
something real quick.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear. Just can't see anything.
Yeah, let me know when you,
How can we get in Johnson & Johnson? Have Atos bring us in.
Yeah, I can see it.
Save
Okay.
money.
so basically we have a few things to show you. One is the service portal itself. So Mike was talking about it. We have, this is a ServiceNow portal. It's branded with Atos Demo Company. We have the ability, in this case, this is our tool, our ServiceNow and so forth. And we have the ability to use this obviously we do use it for ourselves internally, but we also have the ability to create personalized versions for other customers. A couple examples that we've done for like Philip Morris and for Siemens, you know, similar look and feel, but you know, they're branded for the individual companies that we're talking about. So Siemens Healthineers, PMI and so forth. Within ServiceNow, you have the ability to present a number of different things. One is the ability to allow a user to request something. So in requesting something, you go through, put a service request in for a number of different, hold on one second, oops, sorry, items. It could be software, hardware, services that may be something for your organization. And, you know, along with, you know, some of the things that Mike was talking about, create a new user, onboard an employee, you know, do password reset, create incidents, those types of things can all be done through a request. And I'll show you also, you know, a couple of use cases as we go through this. Also access to knowledge base or get help, create an incident. You know, we separate the requests versus the incidents for somebody that might request something. And then also the ability to schedule a service at a tech bar. So if you have one of those tech bars you mentioned, or some additional ones that we may create for you, you could select a location, and then start, you know, basically define, you know, what you need, put yourself in the queue, come back, you know, come back and change your time that you're going to check in, and basically, you know, schedule an appointment or just basically jump in the queue as it exists right now.
And by the way, guys, the other half of this walk-up experience for ServiceNow includes like a wall display, like a 55-inch screen, which actually displays the queue and who's in line, how many it is, as well as 2 iPads on a stand that basically allows you to do local check-in. Like you just walk up and identify yourself and put you in queue up on the thing, and then when you leave, gives that instant sentiment as well. Right? You can just provide like a smiley face, sad face, that whole kind of physical. Unfortunately, virtual nature, but that's part of our physical demonstration is how we can show the screen and all that stuff.
Right, and we would typically locate these in, you know, near the lunch area or someplace that you could take advantage of that while you're waiting in line if that's something that needs to happen. So just back to the main screen, one of the things that it does is presenting, you know, top-rated articles, but it's also popping up with the most recent incidents that you might have open. You can get to some of the same information across the top. It looks at the different requests that you may have open, your cart that you have available as well, and then some of the settings and stuff that you have for your particular user. Let me.
We have that structure set up today for our self-service portal with all the order something, knowledge base, get help, and all that, and what you're showing here.
Right.
Yeah.
Where are you at with the ServiceNow implementation that you mentioned in your RFP?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Where are you at in the rollout of your ServiceNow that you mentioned?
We already have it. Yeah, we already have it.
Okay.
We're already using it today just like this, so that's fine.
Great.
I'm just trying to see your integration. I was curious to see the pieces that you've kind of talked about. Like, can you do self-heal from here?
I don't have any self-heal built into this particular demo. I do have.
Yeah, demo live.
Let me close this again in case you missed it. So we do have the virtual agent. So in the bottom, you click on it, and then it can help you with different issues that you may have. It'll provide you you can open tickets. We're already showing that, but if I have an issue such as I want to delete cookies, I can do that, and it'll walk you through. Mike was showing you this in the video, so it shows you step by step. The steps to delete the cookies as you walk through it, for example, and then ask when you're complete, done. Is there anything else I can help you with? No. You can ask for a live agent.
This is like a demo. This is like
In this case, I'm in the portal here, and I have a agent workspace. Just making sure, did this pop up okay for you?
Yeah.
Okay, So on the back end, this is the agent who is actually taking this chat. They see everything that's happened up to this point. They can then, grab predefined greetings, send that to the person so you can see on the user side, on the agent side. And then you could also transfer this to another agent, push information from the knowledge base into the user and so forth. But the ability to, start off with an automated agent and then escalate to live agent is very powerful. Again, since you're showing the full conversation here to the agent that jumps into the conversation, they can see what's taken place up to this point. The other thing that I wanted to show you real quick was, so for example, if I wanted to request something, for example, a MacBook Air, this will actually show you the fact that I can order this. And in this particular case, I have that MacBook Air. I can order it. It's ordering it for myself. And then in this particular case, that needs to be approved by somebody. So you can see that. Hold on a second here. I want to make sure. Okay, I have an approver ID. Sorry, some of this stuff is getting blocked by the little buttons in Teams, but the user is the approver, ServiceNow, and then you see these requests come in, and this person can either go through the approvals up here or go through the approvals down here and accept that. That's kind of a limited workflow that we were showing, but you also see that these emails also come into this approver's email. I'm logged in with Office 365, and they could click approve or reject from within their email without actually going into ServiceNow, or they could click the link and go to ServiceNow if they wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's some of the stuff that we do today as well. So I know obviously we're getting short on time. What about, so as like a service owner, right? So if I'm Jason and I'm in charge of the service desk and I want to be able to see, all the kind of the stuff that you guys, that Mike was showing as well around the reporting and dashboarding, or if I'm the asset owner, I want to be able to see, I want to be able to have access to some dashboarding around, where the assets are maybe by business entity, what's coming up for refresh and things like that. Do I have that capability here as well? Is that something you can show?
I don't have any. I don't know if Mike does or not.
Analytics around it, like
there's two different ways, right? I mean, you could show it within our business analytics capabilities, or you could show it through the CIO dashboard that Mike was talking about through OneSource. So there's a couple different ways that we could show it. I don't know, Mike, do you have anything that?
I don't have anything in my fingertips ready for today because it's an app on my phone and I don't have the ability to just pop it up real quick. But Scott, the gist is that we use Spotfire as our BI and visualization engine, and we present that through an app. Literally, you can pull it up called OneSource, and you can drill down into by country or whatever, or by business unit, however you kind of quantify that to us, how you want to slice the data, and they can show data in real time. In some cases, a lot of our ServiceNow stuff is usually 1 hour delayed or 1 day look backs based on trending information. But then we have some statistics around like service desk performance, like the current ASA, the current AHT. You can get all that data for carriers service desk from an app, either on your Android or iOS based device, tablets or phones, anytime. There is a web interface as well, but I don't have the demo set up for it right now.
Well, and also,
I was just curious, like we don't. The one thing that's always hard when you're looking at reports is slides are good, but it's static data. Right. So we always want to be able to see the web-based reporting, live statistics, or we can slice and dice from a time frame like you were showing earlier, Mike. That's what I was curious if you had something here that you could show as well, just some of those dashboards or the CIO, the OneSource you mentioned.
Yeah.
But that's just on your phone and you don't have access to it. That's fine. I was just curious.
I apologize. Normally when I demo, I plug in a lightning connector and present on the projector, but I don't know how to do that in Teams right now. So
that wasn't listed in the agenda anyway, so
Right.
I wasn't expecting you to have it. I just figured while we were here, if that was something you could just flash up real quick.
I
One
wish.
of the
I
things
wish
that
I
we're
could.
also
No
going
problem.
into is Microsoft BI, right? So that,
We can highlight that in the next
Right.
session, Scott.
right,
Yeah.
We'll make sure to
Oh,
cover
absolutely. Absolutely, Mark. Yep.
And if you want, in the interim, we can send you some content on that just beforehand. But make sure to
Hey,
cover.
the one slide that Mike showed early with all the everything that lays over top of our
right.
platform and everything. If you wouldn't mind sharing that, that's a good slide to see.
Yeah.
Where we can add on and then we can pull it all back if we wanted.
Yep.
That's a good slide.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good right now. I believe Jason and I know Kamani joined as well. I don't know if they needed to, or had any questions around this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I appreciate it. Thank you for covering all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so we thank you for your time. We know you're busy, and so 75 minutes in today's environment is a lot of time. So thanks a lot, and especially thanks for the I guess process exception. I know this was not exactly per the RP process, but appreciate you letting us do this, and then now we're going to sync back up with the regular process as described.
Okay.
So, yep, we'll be prepared on the dashboard in the next session, and we'll send you some content here from today.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Take care.
It's funny, I forgot to brush my teeth this morning, and I've had the mask on in the place. I'm like, what the fuck smells? I'm like, oh man, it's my breath.
You don't want to know what Luckin's at.
Ugh, I saw it this morning. I was like, fuck.
$7.
I know.
We FaceTime this guy.
I wanted a dashboard.
Right?
I know. Why doesn't anybody get it? I mean, I prepped. I'm like, Scott wants live shit, live data, right?
Yep.
He doesn't like video recordings. And what do they show you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a timing thing, but I figured they have their own demo site,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, that's why I wanted them to go through. I'm texting Mark. I'm like, have them go through a full request, so
Yeah.
you can see the routes and stuff, not video recorded. But they do have some cool stuff.
Yeah.
No,
it was good. It was good. Yeah, I mean, it's the meeting really, the timing of it kind of sucked because of the whole RFP release and everything. I was getting pushback from sourcing.
Yeah.
So now I have to send the same email out to all the rest of the bidders and say, hey, if you have an option between Monday and Tuesday next week to do the same thing. So
Oh crap.
it'll be the same. Well, you have to. It'll be the same agenda.
All right. Well, hey, do I get to do that? If I do, then I'll bring Atos in and we'll show dashboards.
You lost it out because you guys combined.
Damn it. Damn it.
Well, there's the Q&A, or during the
Yeah.
Q&A, there's going to be questions from you guys, and there's going to be questions from us, all related to the RFP. So we can even just say, hey, obviously now they know, right? Prep some of that stuff, and when we get into that session on, I think the 8th and 9th or whatever that is, we can do it then.
Yeah. I'm going to make sure
I
they
think we have an
know.
hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Figure out the timing on it, but I don't think there's a set time. It's just the set days with everybody. So
Good. Yeah, because an hour sucks. I mean,
I know it was.
Yeah.
Well, I was scheduled for 2, and then again the pushback. So it was like, okay.
I get it. No, I get it, 100%. But yeah, and our stuff will integrate into theirs. I'm deciding which one to do, whether it's mine or I'm not using ACSL. Just so you know, it's going to be just us in all those countries because I don't want those uplifts for you guys, right?
Yeah.
I'll see about Brazil. Are you in Brazil?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Maybe in Brazil I'll use some. I fucking hate Brazil, but
they're a tough one.
that is the worst one.
Yeah.
Worst one ever. But it'll integrate in, and then we'll just You know, because where everybody's model sucks is you hear them, we'll order it weekly. Yeah, but you need to have the stuff available and in stock. And I'm not going to invoice you till it's shipped, so it doesn't cost you
that's
anything.
the key thing, and I think that's what he was trying to say. 'Cause a lot of customers want to hear that it's more of a just-in-time type deal
Yeah.
versus stock loading it. You know, it's the same with when you get into Intel having their issues or whatever.
Oh, I know.
Supplies get limited, so it's good to have That's why we always try and do a min-max around it.
Yeah, if you don't
It's
stock
good to
load,
have
you're
the separate
screwed.
refresh stock versus the new stock, right? So,
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we handle Northrop too. We have refresh, and then we have net new, right?
Right.
And then we do B stock because that's something I
Yeah.
want to talk to you guys too about is refreshing and putting those assets under B stock, right? Something
Yeah.
add memory, add a solid state drive, extend the life of the asset. You know, if it's
Right.
a few years old, you know, for low hanging fruit, but who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
All right, dude.
Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you.
No problem. All right, take care.
You too. Bye.
Yeah.
Relationships.
They would kick our ass. We would have failed in the first
Oh
week.
God, we was horrible. I had a good fucking presentation, but following through with that stuff, they were really good. Speaking of,